All right, welcome everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive into the psychology of money.
Yeah, pulling out some of the most interesting bits from these audiobook excerpts we have.
Really flipping the script on how we think about wealth.
Yeah.
Less about
Mm-hmm.
formulas and market predictions and more about,
Yeah.
how you behave and like how that impacts your
Yeah.
bank account, basically.
It's really interesting how we think about finance
Yeah.
like it's just a pure numbers game.
Yeah, yeah.
But actually, what we're going to see in these excerpts is it's anything but. It's
Right.
really emotions and all these biases and experiences we all have that play a much bigger role than
Totally. And the video starts out with these contrasting stories
Right.
about Ronald Reed, a janitor, and Richard Fuscone,
Yeah.
who's a Harvard-educated executive. And I think people might be surprised to learn that Ronald Reed, the janitor, actually amassed like an $8 million fortune,
Wow.
outperforming a lot of Wall Street experts.
Yeah.
And then Fuscone ended up bankrupt.
That really, I think, throws a wrench in the idea that,
Yeah.
financial success is all about intelligence or your education or that kind of thing. And so Reed's story, I think it's really kind of a testament to the power of just like patience.
Yeah.
Slow and steady wins the race, just letting your investments grow over time, compound. And then Fuscone is more of a story of like getting caught up in risky ventures and
Yeah. It's like sometimes common sense can be more valuable
Right.
than,
Yeah.
a fancy degree.
Absolutely.
So who would have thought a janitor could outperform Wall Street hotshots? But I think what the video's getting at is that finance is different.
Yeah.
It's not always about crunching numbers. It's about,
Yeah.
like we're saying, it's about your mindset.
Exactly, and that's where the whole psychology of money comes in, right? It's about understanding those less tangible factors like discipline, patience, being able to control your emotions.
Right.
And those are the things that make the difference.
And speaking of psychology, right, the video brings in some anecdotes about how, like, our experiences really shape how we view money.
Yeah.
Like the story about John F. Kennedy.
Sure.
He grew up wealthy, never really knew what it was like to struggle financially. And he even admitted that he didn't really understand the impact of the Great Depression until he read about it, like in college.
It's so true, and it's hard to grasp these abstract financial concepts without really living through it.
Right,
Like if you've never had financial hardship, it's really hard to understand what an economic downturn really means.
Yeah, it's not real to you.
Yeah, it's just a concept.
Totally. And then the video goes into Bill Gates' early life. He was attending one of the only high schoolers that had a computer back in 1968.
Right.
Obviously, that access, combined with his talent, played a huge role in his success.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember the role of luck and opportunity in all this.
Absolutely.
What if he hadn't had access to that computer,
Totally. Would Microsoft even
How
exist?
would Microsoft even exist?
Yeah,
It's like one of those what-if scenarios we don't really think about.
totally. And they also touch on the story of his close friend, Kent Evans, who was like brilliant, possibly even more so than Bill Gates. But he died young in a tragic accident.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even if you're on this amazing path, something could derail it.
Yeah.
Good or bad luck plays such a big role.
For sure. And this leads to something I think we all struggle with, which is separating
Right.
luck, skill, and risk when we look at outcomes.
Yes.
It's easy to just say, oh, that person's successful, so they must be skilled, or
Right,
that
yeah.
person failed, so they must have made bad decisions.
Yeah, it's much more complicated than that.
Totally. And we tend to do this thing where we judge other people's failures as like bad decisions.
But then we think of our own setbacks as just bad luck.
It's so true.
Classic.
It's human nature.
Yeah. And the video uses some great examples to illustrate this.
Yeah.
Like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook,
Right.
we say, oh, he's a genius, but like how much of that was luck?
Absolutely.
What about Yahoo's decline? Was that all bad decisions or were there factors outside their control, right?
Yeah.
Even Benjamin Graham, like the father of value investing,
Yeah.
had this incredibly lucky bet on Geico stock.
That's right. That basically made his fortune.
Right. And it highlights, like, you really need to look at broad patterns.
Yes.
Instead of just cherry-picking
Absolutely.
case studies.
We get so caught up in, like, the outliers, but yeah, luck and risk are always there.
Always there. So it's like the video seems to be saying that instead of trying to copy successful people, we should create a framework that acknowledges luck and risk.
Exactly. It's more about just being in the game long enough for those lucky breaks to happen and being resilient enough to bounce back from the unlucky ones.
Totally, totally. And that brings us to another point, which is the difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy.
Right.
The video talks about two figures from the 1920s, Jesse Livermore, a legendary trader, and Abraham Dramansky, a real estate developer.
Yeah, and Livermore made a fortune during that 1929 crash, but eventually lost it all and took his own life. And then Dramansky made, I think, $100 million in real estate in the 20s and then lost it all in the crash.
That's wild. It really goes to show that just because you get rich quick doesn't mean you know how to stay rich.
Doesn't mean you know how to stay rich. Requires a totally different skill set.
Right.
Like being frugal, a little bit paranoid, even knowing how to, survive those market downturns.
Right.
Not chasing the next big win all the time.
It's like in poker, knowing when to fold your cards.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the smartest move is to protect your capital.
Right. You're not always trying to strike gold. You're trying to build a fortress that can withstand the the storm.
The storm. So it's not about getting caught up in chasing returns. It's about building a foundation that can weather all of the
absolutely
ups and downs.
Right.
Okay. So that leads us to tails.
Yes, the long tails.
Tell me more about long tails.
Yeah, so they talk about this art dealer, Heinz Bergruen, who built this amazing collection over decades. And it turned out that only a tiny fraction of what he bought, works by Picasso and a few others, made up almost all of the value of the entire collection.
So it's like a few really big wins can make up for a lot of smaller losses.
Absolutely. And it's like that with investing, too. Just a small percentage of companies end up driving the majority of the gains in the stock market.
That's so wild.
Like how a few blockbuster movies can make or break a studio's year.
That's crazy. So it's kind of counterintuitive because you would think that if you're right about half of your investment decisions, that would be okay.
You'd think so, right?
But that's not really how it works, huh?
No, because investment returns are they're very unevenly distributed or skewed, as the video puts it.
Okay.
So you have this small number of big winners, and they make up for a ton of small losers.
So what's the takeaway for the average investor?
I think it's patience and diversification. Don't try to time the market or pick the next hot stock. Just build a broad portfolio and let those long-term trends do their work.
So you don't have to be right all the time.
Yeah.
You just got to be right about
a few big things. Okay.
Which, easier said than done, I guess. But speaking of what's important for the long term, the video goes into this idea of freedom is the ultimate dividend.
Oh, yes.
Of wealth.
Yeah. The best thing about wealth isn't necessarily fancy stuff, but just being able to control your time.
Yeah.
Make choices without being limited by money.
I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm always chasing my tail.
Right.
Working long hours just to just to keep up.
Keep up with the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So it makes you wonder if there's a better way.
Yeah. And they contrast John D. Rockefeller.
Oh, yeah.
Who was one of the wealthiest men ever, but lived this pretty simple life.
Simple life, and spent a lot of his time just quietly thinking.
Wow.
And then you contrast that with the modern knowledge worker who's always,
Yeah, always on.
Plugged in, on call.
Yeah, totally. It's do we have all this technology and opportunity, but are we actually happier? Are we truly free?
That's the question.
Right.
It seems like they're saying that building wealth can help you step off that hamster wheel and create a life that's more in line with your values.
Yeah. It's not about the money itself. It's about what it enables you to do.
Exactly.
And then they talk about this idea of being reasonably rational.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is really interesting. Kind of challenging this notion that we should always strive for perfect logic when making financial decisions.
Right. And we're human beings. We're not, robots.
Yeah.
We have emotions. We have biases.
Totally.
Trying to ignore those can actually backfire.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And they have this crazy example
Yeah.
of Julius Wagner Jauregg,
Right.
who was this psychiatrist who won the Nobel Prize for...
I know it sounds crazy, but
for treating syphilis with malaria.
Yeah, which was effective.
Wow.
But the interesting thing is he didn't really base this decision on, like, hard data. It was more of a...
Language.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes a little intuition can lead to great results.
Absolutely.
So it's all about finding a balance between...
logic.
And intuition.
And this idea of being reasonably rational, what does that really mean?
It's about accepting that our emotions play a role, but trying to make, informed decisions that line up with your goals.
Right.
Long-term goals.
Okay, so finding that middle ground.
Yes.
And then speaking of kind of extremes, they go into this idea of the allure of pessimism. Which I think, especially when it comes to money, we're all susceptible to that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially in times that feel uncertain.
Right.
It feels smarter to focus on, like, all the risks and dangers.
Intellectual to be negative.
It does.
Than to be positive.
It does.
And they give an example of a Wall Street Journal article from 2008.
Oh, yeah.
Like right at the peak of the financial crisis.
The peak of the...
And they were predicting, like, even more doom and gloom.
Yeah, because the recent events just loom so large in our mind.
Totally.
It's like if you see a plane crash on the news, you suddenly think flying is terrifying, even though it's statistically very safe.
It's the safest way to travel,
Yeah. Our brains are wired to pay attention to threats.
Right.
Which is good for survival, but not always good for...
rational decisions.
Rational financial decisions.
Okay, so how do we fight this pessimism bias?
I think they suggest trying to balance our assessment of risk with a broader historical perspective.
Okay.
Things might be bad right now, but historically the markets have always recovered and grown.
Okay, that's a good point. And that leads us to this idea of the limitations of using history to predict the future.
Yes. History can give us clues, but it doesn't repeat exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And one of the best examples from the video is the Wright brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even after they successfully flew their plane, people were like, this is a novelty.
Right.
They didn't see its potential.
It's like the people who said the internet was a fad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so hard to predict the future.
Yeah, even with evidence.
Even when you have some evidence.
Yeah. So how do we make financial decisions when things are always changing?
Yeah, they highlight all these structural changes that make historical data less relevant today.
Okay, like what?
Things like 401ks, the rise of those, the explosion of venture capital, the fact that the stock market is made up of totally different companies than it was 50 years ago, the increasing role of technology.
Yeah, totally.
All these things have changed the financial landscape.
Yeah, it's like trying to use a map from the 1800s to navigate a modern city.
Yeah, things have changed too much.
Yeah, so it's like we need to adapt, question our assumptions, question those long-held assumptions about how things work.
Okay, yeah. So room for error.
Yes, room for error.
This is something I think we could all use a little bit more of.
Absolutely. And it's really about accepting that we don't know what the future holds.
Right.
You got to have a buffer in your plans.
Totally.
So you're not completely derailed when something unexpected happens.
Yeah.
Life rarely goes according to plan.
Right.
One of the best examples is this story about Clarence Hughes.
Yeah.
Went to the dentist for a simple toothache.
Okay.
They put him under. And when he woke up, he was missing 16 teeth.
Oh, my God.
And his tonsils.
What?
Yeah, he didn't consent to any of it.
Wow.
It just highlights how even these routine things can go wrong.
Totally.
Same thing with our finances, you know?
Yeah.
You need that margin of safety built into your investments, your savings plans, your spending plans, so you can be protected from a market downturn, or if you lose your job.
Right, or like
a medical emergency.
Right, yeah.
You got to have that cushion to absorb those shocks.
Okay, so it's like an emergency fund, but
for everything.
Yeah.
It's a safety net.
A safety. So something we all experience but often don't consider when planning is that we
change. Our desires, our priorities, our goals, none of it's fixed.
Totally. Like what I wanted 5 years ago is completely different from what I want now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we assume it's going to stay the same.
Yeah.
But we evolve as we go through life.
Right. And they have this story about someone who worked tirelessly to be a doctor.
Yeah.
But then when he got there, it
wasn't what he expected.
Wasn't what he expected.
Yeah, and it happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah, so we need to be flexible and course correct.
Course correct, as our priorities change.
Okay, yeah. Our financial plan should be as dynamic
Absolutely.
as we are.
As we are.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, this next point is really key. I think nothing in life is free, especially when it comes to
finances.
To finances.
Yeah.
Every reward has a cost, and every opportunity has risk.
Risk. Yeah, we tend to focus on the good stuff and not think about the potential downsides.
Right.
Which is just human nature.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So they use this example of the Dow Jones industrial average and its historical returns.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's gone up significantly over the long term.
Right.
But those gains come with
periods of volatility, decline.
Right. If you want to be in the game, you got to be prepared to lose.
Yeah. So understanding the price of success.
Yeah.
It's not just about picking the right investments. It's about your mindset.
It's about, having the mental and emotional resilience to handle
the ups and downs.
Yeah, totally. Now, I'm curious how these insights have shaped your investment strategy.
Well, it's reinforced the importance of just, diversification, patience, and a long-term perspective, not getting caught up in those short-term market fluctuations.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you? What about your family?
Well, our portfolio might not be the most exciting, but our main focus is really on cash savings and low-cost index fund investing.
That's great.
It gives us peace of mind.
Yeah.
It aligns with our long-term goals.
That's fantastic. You're prioritizing stability and security.
Exactly.
Which is so valuable.
Right, and it frees us up to focus on, other things in life without constantly worrying about the market.
That's great. The goal of finance should be to enhance our lives, not consume them with stress.
I agree. Okay, last key takeaway from the psychology of money that I think is so important is the idea of recognizing
and managing our own biases.
Absolutely.
When making financial decisions.
Our biases, whether we know them or not, they can really trip us up when it comes to money.
Total.
The key is to be self-aware. At least recognize when those biases are at play.
Right.
Yeah.
And the video does a good job of highlighting some of the common ones that affect us.
Absolutely. Like overconfidence. Thinking we can predict the future better than we can.
Right.
Or anchoring.
Yeah.
Getting stuck on a certain number or piece of information.
Yeah. And so once you're aware of those biases, you can start to make more objective decisions.
More objective, less emotional.
Less emotional, right?
Decisions.
Yeah. So it's like having a little voice in the back of your head saying, hey, are you falling into that trap again?
That's a great way to put it.
And that's why I think this video is so
compelling. Yeah.
It's not just about understanding, financial concepts.
It's about understanding
ourselves.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Right. And mastering our own minds is really the key to financial success.
Yes, that's right.
It's about that self-awareness and making choices that align with our values and our
values and goals.
Goals and ultimately our well-being.
Absolutely.
Right. It's about looking inward as much as we look outward.
Yes.
So in this deep dive, we've been exploring the connection between our psychology, our behaviors, and our financial outcomes.
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
It is.
As much as anything.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
But there's so much more to unpack. So we'll be back soon to explore more of these fascinating insights from the psychology of money.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
Until then, take some time to reflect on what we've discussed and think about how these ideas might apply to your own life.
Absolutely. One thing that's interesting is how all this psychology stuff we've been talking about, how it can kind of lead us astray in our financial decisions. The video brings up this idea of defining the game.
Okay.
You're playing in finance.
The game. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's about recognizing that not everyone has the same goals, or playing by the same rules. Yeah. And we are constantly told how we should be investing or what kind of wealth we should have. But those messages are often coming from people with totally different...
Yeah, different circumstances. Yeah. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
Exactly.
What's for one person might not work for another.
Right. And if you're not careful, you end up chasing someone else's version of success.
Right.
Instead of your own.
Yeah, it's like trying to play basketball with someone who's playing soccer. You're both on a field, but the rules are different.
The rules are totally different. So it's about defining like your own financial philosophy, making sure your actions actually line up with your
goals. Yeah.
Yeah, your goals, your risk tolerance, your time horizon.
So how do we figure out what game we should be playing?
The video asks this great question. What do you own and why?
Oh, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's not just about like justifying your investments.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your motivations, you know?
Yeah.
Why did you make those decisions?
Right.
Do they still make sense for you?
Right. Taking inventory of your financial life.
Yeah. And it encourages you to take like real ownership of your decisions. You can't just like rely on your financial advisor.
Yeah, you can't just outsource it.
Yeah. Or what's trendy right now.
Totally.
You need that financial literacy.
Yeah, and take responsibility for your own well-being.
Yeah, your own financial well-being.
Yeah.
Right.
And that leads us to this idea of like the difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Okay. So those aren't the same thing.
Yeah, the video says like rich is high income right now.
Okay.
But wealthy is about having the freedom to choose how you spend your time.
So you could be making a ton of money, but if you're working all the time, you're not really wealthy.
That's the point. It's about control over your time and choices.
So wealth is about options, not just possessions.
Options, yeah.
Okay, I like that.
And this goes back to like defining your game, right?
Right.
If success is just about money,
right,
you might end up sacrificing other things that are important.
Totally.
Your time, your relationships.
Yes, health.
Yeah, your health. It's like they say, money often costs too much.
It's so true. So true. So how do we balance wanting financial security, but also wanting a life that's full and meaningful?
That's the age-old dilemma.
Right.
Money can give us freedom.
Yeah.
But it can also trap us.
Right. And a key part of balancing all that is being aware of our own mortality.
Okay. That got dark real quick.
But it's true. We all have a limited amount of time.
That's true.
And acknowledging that can be freeing.
Okay.
It pushes us to make the most of it. Prioritize the things that
matter. Yeah.
That really matter.
So aligning our financial goals with
our values.
Our values and aspirations.
Yes. Recognizing that money is just a tool to help us achieve those things.
Right. The money shouldn't be the goal itself.
It's about the life you want to live.
Totally. Okay, that makes sense. And then there's this idea of
contentment.
Contentment.
Yeah.
How does that fit in?
So the video says, like, true contentment comes from appreciating what you have, not constantly wanting more.
Right.
Happiness isn't tied to, like, a certain income or how many things you own.
And that's tough in a world where we're always told to buy more.
That is.
Do more, be more, you know?
Right. But that just leads to dissatisfaction.
Yeah. So how do we cultivate contentment when everything's so focused on, like, material success?
Well, they talk about practicing gratitude.
Okay.
Focusing on experiences instead of things. Spending time with people you love.
Right. It's about like shifting our focus from what we lack to
what we have.
To what we have, yeah.
And recognizing that abundance.
In the abundance, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. So now let's talk about giving back.
Yes, giving back.
This is something I'm really passionate about.
Me too.
You know, I think we have a responsibility to help others.
Help others.
Both financially and in other ways.
And it's not just like a moral thing.
Right.
It can also bring a lot of joy and satisfaction, you know, realizing we're all connected.
Totally.
We can make
the difference.
A positive difference.
So true wealth is about what we contribute, not just what we
accumulate.
Okay. So we touched on luck earlier.
Yes.
With Bill Gates. But I want to hear more about how the video explores this.
Yeah, they make this point that luck plays a bigger role in our finances than we want to admit.
Right. It's better to be lucky than good, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so how do we get lucky?
Well, you can't control luck, but you can create an environment where you're more likely to get lucky.
Oh, I like that.
You know, being open to new opportunities, meeting new people, taking risks, being in the right place at the right time.
Right. So put yourself out there.
Yes.
Create the conditions for
serendipity.
For serendipity. Okay. Be ready to catch those lucky breaks.
Yes. And that kind of goes back to the tales we talked about.
Right, yeah.
You never know when one of those huge events might happen.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to be prepared.
Got to be ready. Okay. So something I struggle with is having a long-term perspective.
I think that's hard for a lot of us.
Yeah.
With, everything moving so fast these days.
Right, yeah. So thinking about where we want to be in...
Years.
Years, not...
5, 10, 20 years?
Not next week.
Not next week.
Okay, yeah.
Making decisions that fit into your vision of a good life.
Even if it means making sacrifices.
Yeah, even if it's hard right now.
Right. It's like planting a tree,
Yeah.
You might not see the shade for years, but eventually it's going
to grow into something amazing.
Grow into something amazing and provide shelter.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's about investing in your future self.
Okay, so making choices today that benefit us down the road.
That's it.
Okay. What about compounding?
Oh, compound.
This is where the magic happens, right?
Yeah. The video calls it the 8th wonder of the world.
Really?
Yeah. Money you invest grows exponentially.
Okay.
Because the interest you earn is reinvested.
Correct.
And then that earns more interest.
Right.
Yeah. And so like that snowball effect. Exactly. And the sooner you start, the more time it has to work.
Okay.
So even small amounts invested regularly can become huge over time.
Okay, so start early.
Yes. Develop that habit of saving.
And saving.
Yeah.
And investing.
Yeah, even if it's just a little bit.
A little bit at a time. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do we know our risk tolerance? This is something I think a lot of people struggle with.
It's a personal thing.
Right.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
But they suggest thinking about how you'd react if your investments went down.
Right. Like how much volatility can you handle?
Yeah, before you start panicking.
Yeah.
If you're stressed by the ups and downs,
right.
Maybe stick to safer investments.
Okay.
Even if they have lower returns.
Right, like choosing the right
yeah.
roller coaster.
Yes.
Some people like those big drops.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Others want a smoother ride. Match your strategy to your personality.
Okay, and what about investing in...
your human capital.
Human capital, what is that?
It's your skills, your knowledge, your experience.
Okay.
All the stuff that makes you valuable.
So it's like investing in yourself.
Yeah, and it's one of the best investments you can make.
How so?
It can lead to higher earnings.
Okay.
More satisfaction at work. A more fulfilling life.
Okay, so investing in your own growth and development?
Yeah, like you would with stocks or bonds.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
So that could mean going back to school.
Okay.
Learning new skills. Networking.
Okay.
Even just reading about stuff.
Right, so you are your greatest...
Asset,
yeah. And we need to talk about financial literacy.
Yes, financial literacy.
I think this is so important.
It is.
Everyone should have a basic understanding of
personal finance.
Yeah, regardless of,
yeah,
income or background.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like balancing your checkbook. Right.
It's about understanding how the whole system works.
Right.
How to make good decisions.
It's about empowerment.
Yeah. So things like investing, debt, credit, retirement planning.
Right, like giving yourself the tools.
The tools and knowledge.
The tools and knowledge to navigate this crazy world.
To navigate this crazy world.
And the good news is there are a lot of resources out there.
Absolutely. Books, articles.
Yeah.
Online courses, workshops.
Totally.
Like anything else, the more you learn, the more confident you become.
The more confident you become. Okay.
Yeah.
One last thing. Enjoy the journey.
Yes, enjoy the journey.
I think we get so focused on the destination, we forget to, enjoy the ride.
The ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, life is happening right now.
Right.
So find joy and meaning in the present moment.
Even while we're working towards our goals. Yes, celebrate small wins.
Yeah.
Appreciate your loved ones. Make time for stuff you enjoy.
Right. Even if it doesn't directly lead to your financial goals.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about creating a life that's rich in experiences. And not just
possessions. Yes.
That's what the psychology of money is really about.
It is. It's not just about the concepts. It's about ourselves. Yeah.
And how our relationship with money is...
So personal.
So personal and emotional.
And often
driven by things beyond.
Yeah, beyond logic.
Beyond logic and...
It's logic and rationality.
And rationality, yeah.
Yeah.
So once we understand that,
yeah,
we can make better choices.
More conscious choices.
Yeah, and choices that really support our well-being.
Absolutely.
Okay, this has been a fascinating...
conversation.
We've covered a lot in this second part.
Yeah, we have of our deep dive.
There's still more to explore.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be back to wrap things up and leave you with some final thoughts and takeaways.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, think about how all these ideas might apply to your own life. It's really amazing how much we've uncovered in this deep dive into the psychology of money.
I know, right? It feels like we've gone through this whole spectrum of like financial and philosophical ideas.
It's true. We've talked about everything from patience and long-term thinking to like power of luck and pessimism
and it all comes back to like understanding ourselves.
Yeah, and the idea that money isn't just this cold, hard thing.
It's not just number,
It's all tied up in our emotions and our biases and our
values.
Values. And once we understand that, we can make better decisions about how we manage our money.
Absolutely. More conscious decisions.
And they make this point in the video about how financial success isn't just about like hitting a certain
net worth.
Net worth or income level.
Right, it's about living a wealthy life.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Yeah, a life that's defined by what's important to you.
Right, I like that. It's powerful.
It is.
And it's not always about those traditional markers of success that we're told to chase.
Exactly.
Maybe it's about spending time with your family.
Right.
Traveling or working on a passion project.
Yeah, and they really emphasize that you need to define your own version of success.
Right.
Not what society says it is.
Not based on external measures.
Right.
But what actually makes you happy.
Yeah, what brings you joy.
Joy.
Or fulfillment.
So it's about a life that's rich in experiences, relationships, not just money.
And that might mean making some trade-offs along the way.
Trade-offs, okay.
Like maybe you work less. Even if you earn less, so you can spend more time with
your family or
doing things you enjoy.
Yeah. Or maybe you save like crazy now.
So you can have more freedom later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's about those long-term choices.
Choices that align with your vision, even if they're unconventional.
Yeah. And that's what they're encouraging us to do.
Right.
Be more thoughtful, more intentional, more self-aware.
Yeah. And I think that's a valuable message for anyone.
So everyone.
No matter how old you are, what you make, or your goals.
It's about recognizing that money is a tool, but we have to use it wisely in a way that makes our lives better.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that last point again about how it's not about the destination.
Oh, yeah, the journey.
It's about the journey.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, finding joy in the process, not just
the outcome.
The outcome.
Yeah.
It's about making choices that align with your values. Creating a life that's both
secure,
financially secure,
and
fulfilling. Yeah,
absolutely.
So that's what this has all been about: exploring those connections between our psychology and our behavior
and our money.
Right?
Yeah,
it's all connected.
It all comes together.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the psychology of money.
Yeah, it's been fun.
We hope these insights have given you a new perspective on your relationship with money and inspired you to make choices that support your overall well-being. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating a life that's both financially secure and personally meaningful.
I love that.